the best weekend for certain teams. It was one hell of a weekend for Baylor, though, guys.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
I mean, come on now.
11
draft
players,
picks.
6 drafts.
Forget who didn't get drafted or what school didn't get drafted, guys. The school that we cover on a daily basis had a record-breaking class. And so, for those that aren't developing, there were some guys here that we've been watching the last 3-4 years that got developed pretty damn good.
And we're going to hear from 2 of them. One who was drafted, Terrell Bernard, by the Bills, and also Xavier Newman-Johnson. Great story with him. The offensive lineman signed as an undrafted free agent by the Tennessee Titans. Among the players drafted, there were 6. Who was not drafted that you thought might get drafted? Abram Smith?
Only one answer. Yeah, it's Abram Smith. And the fact that it took 5 minutes after the last draft pick for him to get a deal that's amongst the best undrafted free agent deals is great for him, although I'm sure he wishes he could have heard his name called. But it's just silly to me that a team wouldn't have just drafted him in the 6th round and gotten him for cheaper than not drafting him and then having to pay him like certain money guaranteed. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you not just draft him? I don't get that at all, but it worked out for him because he got way better money than he would have gotten at a 6th or 7th round pick, but that just made no sense to me. I mean, as I'm watching certain running backs coming off the board, I do think there's an element of Baylor fans who probably overrate him a little bit. I saw he's going to come in and be your starter, and I'm like, well, wait a second, give him a second to kind of settle in. But I mean, would it be surprising if he did end up sticking around and being a player who plays a lot for the Saints? Not at all. But yeah, I was just puzzled of why you would not draft him for cheaper, but then be so quick to go and grab him as soon as it was over with.
It happens all the time.
No, I know it does, but it's a strange thing.
Yeah, and the Cowboys had a kid from Florida A&M that they really, really liked. They didn't draft him, but then they gave him $200,000 in guaranteed money. You kind of have that game. There's a lot of teams that like Tony Romo, but no one felt like they should draft him, and the Cowboys had to outbid a few people to get him. And look what happened with that as an undrafted free agent. Abram Smith not getting drafted, and I wonder if an injury, and again, there's so many things they know, even though we think we know a lot because we cover these young men, that there's so much you'd never know that might have backed them off a little bit. Because how about Nakobe Dean, the best player on the Georgia defense? Doesn't mean he's the best NFL prospect, but the best player on the Georgia defense who went, in 3rd round to Philadelphia late because of a pectoral issue, whatever it might be. What if he ends up being really good in the pros and everybody was scared off because of perhaps the injury issue? And a lot of times, even though it might anger or frustrate a fan base or a player or an agent, the NFL doctors know. Now they're going to miss some, but they know everything there is to know about the body, the history, and the injury issues.
But again, if he's got an injury, then why did it take 5 minutes to get him after the draft? It doesn't make any sense. That's what I'm saying is, okay, if there's an injury issue, it scares you away. That doesn't mean the Saints then rush to the phone to call you and then offer you $200,000 guaranteed. So what injury? What injury was scaring them off? I know that had to come into some play, but...
Well, and if you look at the Saints, roster, if I was the running backs are set. They've got Alvin Kamara, who might get suspended for some off-the-field stuff. They got Mark Ingram, who they brought back.
Who might not stick around. And then guys like Tony Jones, Dwayne Washington, and Josh Adams are their next 3 backs. So Abram Smith can clearly, to me, if the goal is to at least get to the 3rd back on a Saints team that uses even under the new coach Dennis Allen will kind of be the same as they were. We'll use the 3rd running back and a guy who's going to play special teams. Abram be great on special teams. He knows how to tackle. That. So I think he can get to that spot, and so he wound up in a good place.
There's a lot going on. We've tried to cover some of it. The bottom line is if you're Dave Aranda and your staff, you can sit there and tell the story about all of these 11 young men who are now a part of at least an NFL team. Secondly, Drew Estrada was signed as an undrafted free agent. We'll hear from Xavier Newman and ask him about what it was like over the weekend. Did he ever think his phone was going to ring? How often was his phone being dinged, or his agent, and the conversations as the draft continued on into Saturday? There's also, again, that Georgia